They thought she was just another civilian, visiting her mom in a quiet gated community. A few HOA guards decided to make her a lesson in neighborhood authority. They cornered her, they shouted, one even grabbed her arm, but the moment she pulled out her badge, the entire HOA froze, because the quiet woman in jeans wasn't just visiting, she was the FBI tactical commander every law agency in the state answered to. By sunset, those guards weren't barking orders anymore, they were giving statements. The sun was just beginning to sink behind the neat, cookie-cutter houses of Maple Ridge Estates, painting the manicured lawns gold. Sprinklers hissed in perfect rhythm, every mailbox gleamed, every car looked freshly waxed. The place was so quiet it almost felt artificial, like a neighborhood built on rules instead of warmth. Ava Ward's black SUV rolled slowly through the front gate, its tires crunching against spotless gravel. She'd been here before, years ago, visiting her mother on rare weekends when work allowed. Back then, the guards had waved her through without question, but there were new faces now. As she pulled up to the checkpoint, two men in gray security polos stepped out of a golf cart. Their posture was stiff, not like trained law enforcement, but like people trying hard to look like it. One of them, a broad man with mirrored sunglasses, held up his hand. Stop the vehicle. Ava eased the SUV to a halt, window rolling down. Evening, she said evenly. He squinted at her. You a resident here? No, visiting. My mother lives on Mapleview Drive, house 42. He looked down at a clipboard, pretending to check something. You got ID? Ava raised an eyebrow. You need ID to visit your own family now. New HOA policy, the other one said, younger, chewing gum loud enough to echo. Lot of theft lately. Gotta be careful who we let in. Ava's tone stayed calm. Understood. You can call Mrs. Ward if you'd like. She'll confirm. The older one shook his head. Not how this works. We need to log your driver's license and license plates. Ava smiled faintly. Can't let you do that, gentlemen. This vehicle's federal property. That made him pause. Federal? She nodded once. Yes, official use only. But I'm here off duty, visiting family. The men exchanged glances. She could almost see the suspicion building, the mix of arrogance and insecurity that came with small power. The younger one stepped closer. You work for the government or something? Something like that, she said. He chuckled. You don't look like it. Ava didn't answer. She just looked past them at the gate. The row of perfect houses. The fake sense of order that people here mistook for control. Finally, the older guard sighed. Fine, but don't park anywhere near the clubhouse. HOA is cracking down on visitors who think they own the place. Ava's jaw tightened just a fraction. Copy that. She drove through without another word. Her mother, Ellen Ward, was on the porch when she arrived. A gentle woman in her 60s, watering potted flowers. You made it, she said warmly, waving. Ava smiled, the hard lines of her face softening. Hey Mom, they hugged. For a moment, the world felt small and peaceful again. Ellen looked her up and down. You've lost weight. You working too hard. You know me, Ava said. Work never sleeps. As they carried her bags inside, Ellen sighed. Be careful with those guards, honey. They've gotten strange lately. Act like they're police. Ava frowned. Private security. HOA volunteers, Ellen corrected. Self-appointed ones. Ava set her duffel down and looked out the window where the same guards were still making rounds. Flashlights sweeping over driveways. Armed? She asked quietly. Her mother hesitated. I think so. Ava's expression didn't change, but her eyes sharpened, alert, calculating. Then they're about to learn something, she said softly. About what? Ellen asked. Ava smiled thinly. Jurisdiction. Outside, the night deepened quiet, and unaware that it was about to become the most unforgettable evening Maple Ridge had ever seen. Morning sunlight spilled across Maple Ridge Estates like liquid gold. Perfect lawns, freshly washed cars, neighbors waving with fake smiles before disappearing behind their white fences. But under the quiet, tension brewed, the kind you only notice when you've spent your life reading danger before it happens. Ava stood on her mother's porch, sipping black coffee, her eyes tracking to security carts patrolling the street. They weren't just watching, they were profiling. She noticed one cart pause near a delivery van. The guards peered inside, hands resting on their holstered pistols. Overkill for a neighborhood with 0 incidents this quarter, as the HOA bragged. Her phone buzzed. A text from her field office in DC. You're on official leave. Try to stay off the radar. Ava smirked. Working on it, she muttered. She didn't expect trouble, but trouble, as she knew too well, had a way of finding her. By noon, she was helping her mum unload groceries when a sharp voice rang out. Hey, you can't park there. Ava turned. One of the same guards from last night, the younger one, stood near her SUV, clipboard in hand, expression smug. Ellen sighed. Oh, for heaven's sake. Ava wiped her hands and walked over. Is there a problem? Yeah, he said, tapping the paper. Visitor parking only allows 30 minutes. You've been here all morning. Ava folded her arms. I'm visiting my mother, he smirked. Not our problem. HOA policy says. HOA policy, she interrupted calmly, doesn't override federal law, property rights, or common sense. His jaw tightened. Listen, lady, don't start getting smart before he could finish. The other guard, the older one, appeared, hand hovering near his weapon. Everything okay here? The younger one grinned. She's refusing to comply. Ellen stepped off the porch, alarmed. Officers, please. She's my daughter, the older guard cut her off. Ma'am, step back. We'll handle this. Ava exhaled slowly. You're armed. Authorized, he said flatly. Under what statute? She asked. He blinked. What? Under what legal authority are you carrying a firearm while detaining civilians in a residential zone? Her voice had shifted, calm, cold, clipped. The guards hesitated. Their confidence faltered for the first time. The younger one laughed nervously. Lady, don't act like you're some kind of cop. Ava's tone didn't change. You're blocking a private citizen, brandishing a weapon, and attempting to enforce an unratified policy. That's called unlawful intimidation. You might want to rethink your tone. The older guard scowled. You threatening us? Ava tilted her head slightly. No, I'm warning you. He stepped forward, his hand brushing the grip of his gun. Back off, ma'am, Ellen gasped. Please don't. The neighborhood froze, curtains twitching, phones recording. Ava didn't flinch. She raised her hands slowly, eyes steady. You really don't want to do that? The older man sneered. Or what? Ava's gaze locked on his belt, noting the safety still on. Her mind ran through distances, angles, and timing. Years of tactical training compressed into a heartbeat. Then, from behind them, a black sedan turned the corner. Government plates gleaming. It stopped abruptly. Two plainclothes agents stepped out, scanning the scene. The guards froze. One of the agents spoke into his earpiece, confirming visual. Commander Ward, you good? The younger guard's mouth fell open. Commander. Ava finally smiled, slow and razor-sharp. You asked what authority I have. She reached into her jacket and produced a badge, FBI Tactical Operations Division. The younger guard staggered back. Your FBI, Federal Tactical Commander, she corrected. And you two just pointed a weapon at a federal officer. You might want to think real carefully about your next words. The agents stepped between them. The HOA guards suddenly looked much smaller than they had a moment ago. Ava turned slightly toward her mother. Mum, go inside. This is about to get procedural. Ellen hesitated, then nodded, trusting her daughter the way only a mother could. The neighborhood that once saw Ava as an intruder was about to witness exactly who she was. Evening. The air in Maple Ridge Estates was heavier than the summer heat. The incident, as the HOA chair called it, had spread like wildfire. Every porch, every neighborly text chain buzzed with the same whisper. The quiet woman from Lot 17 as FBI. Ava didn't care about gossip. She cared about the files she now had sitting open on her laptop. Her two fellow agents, Russo and Park, had stayed behind to clean up the scene, officially labeling it a misunderstanding. But Ava wasn't satisfied. The way those guards moved, the way they hesitated, it wasn't standard HOA nonsense. It was trained behavior. Too precise, too confident. She clicked through the HOA's public financial reports, a mess of vague security expenditures, bulk ammo invoices, and patrol equipment maintenance. Something was off. Ava's mother peeked in from the kitchen doorway. Sweetheart, do you really have to get involved? Ava didn't look up. They drew guns on a civilian. That's not just arrogance, that's coordination. Ellen sighed. This is supposed to be your rest. Ava smiled faintly. I don't rest well. The next morning, she went jogging early, wearing a baseball cap and dark glasses. As she passed the community center, she spotted one of the guards, the younger one, pacing behind the building, phone pressed to his ear. She slowed, pretending to stretch, and caught fragments of the conversation. Yeah, she's still here. No, not military. FBI, tactical. I don't care what the contract says. If she starts digging, we're done. Ava straightened slowly. Contract. He turned and froze when he saw her. Morning, she said lightly. He mumbled something, hung up, and tried to walk past. Hold up, Ava said. Her voice dropped just enough to freeze him in place. Who were you talking to? None of your business. See, that's where you're wrong. She flashed her badge again. It's exactly my business. He swallowed. Look, I didn't mean to pull my weapon. I'm not here about that, Ava interrupted. I'm here about who's paying you. His eyes darted toward the main road. We're contracted through the HOA, really. Because the HOA doesn't authorize tactical-grade sidearms, encrypted radios, or ballistic vests marked with serial codes registered to federal surplus. He froze again. Ava stepped closer. You want to tell me how your little neighborhood watch ended up with federal gear? He said nothing. I can subpoena your call records, she continued. Or you can talk to me now off the record. The young man's jaw clenched. You don't understand. We were told to keep an eye on her house. Ava's pulse spiked. Her house? Your mum's, he whispered. An hour later, Ava sat across from the HOA president Richard Hale in his oak-paneled office. He wore a confident smile, but his hands fidgeted. I heard about the unfortunate misunderstanding yesterday, he began. Our guards were overzealous, I admit, but there's no reason to escalate. Ava slid a photo across his desk, one she'd taken earlier that morning. The young guard, meeting a man near a black SUV with government plates that weren't quite government-issued. Recognize him? She asked. Hale's smile faded. I don't see how this concerns. It does if your HOA security is being financed through a private intelligence front, Ava said coolly. And it definitely does if they were using this community to monitor civilians, including my family. He swallowed hard. You have no proof? Ava leaned forward. I have everything I need. Her phone vibrated. A message from Agent Park. Confirmed. Security firm traces back to Sablepoint Solutions. Ex-mill contractors. No legit license. Ava looked back up. That's proof enough. By dusk, the HOA guards were gone, escorted out under federal watch. Neighbors peeked through their curtains again, whispering, but this time, they weren't gossiping. They were grateful. Ellen found Ava on the porch sipping tea. You didn't just scare them off, did you? Her mum asked quietly. Ava shook her head. No, I found out who they were working for, and now I'm going to find out why. The smile that spread across her face wasn't relief, it was resolve. The neighborhood slept beneath a heavy silence that night, but Ava Ward didn't. She sat by the window in her mother's living room, a faint blue glow from her laptop illuminating her face. The HOA security firm she'd traced, Sablepoint Solutions, wasn't a name she'd ever expected to see again. They'd been disbanded years ago after a corruption scandal overseas, illegal surveillance contracts, stolen tech, political blackmail. Now they were here in Maple Ridge, and they'd made one mistake too many. At 2:37 a.m., motion lights flickered in the backyard. Ava's hand went automatically to the holster on the table beside her. She didn't move, just watched, listening. The distant crunch of boots on gravel confirmed it. Someone was inside the perimeter. She whispered, Mum, stay upstairs. Lock the door. Ellen stirred groggily. What's going on? Stay quiet, Ava said firmly, already slipping her tactical vest over a t-shirt. She moved with controlled calm. No panic, no noise, only precision. She reached for her earpiece, switched to a private encrypted channel. This is Ward. I've got movement, 3 tangos west side of the property. Not locals. Agent Park's voice crackled through the line. Copy that. We're 4 minutes out. Hold position. Ava's lips curved faintly. I wasn't planning on running. Outside, shadows slid along the garden fence. 2 men, one crouched low, another scanning with night vision goggles. They thought they were hunting. They didn't realize their prey was already watching. The first one cut the power to the house. Darkness swallowed everything. Ava smirked. Classic. She stepped into the hallway, sidearm drawn, breathing steady. The floorboards creaked once, twice near the kitchen. She waited. 1 heartbeat. 2. Then the intruder stepped through the doorway. Ava moved like lightning, a swift disarm, a low sweep, and his weapon clattered across the tiles before he even hit the ground. She pinned him easily, pressing a knee against his neck. Who sent you? She hissed. The man gasped. Orders. Just orders from who? Before he could answer, glass shattered from the other side of the house. Another intruder. Ava twisted the man's wrist, yanked his radio, and ducked behind the counter as gunfire ripped through the kitchen cabinets. She keyed the radio. You're outnumbered, she said flatly. Back out now. A pause. Then a distorted voice replied, You shouldn't have come back, Agent Ward. Ava froze. That voice, she knew it. The next shot tore through the window, forcing her lower. Who is this? She demanded. The voice crackled again. You remember who you left behind. Her pulse spiked. She did remember. A former teammate presumed dead during a joint op years ago. A man who'd gone rogue after the mission collapse. Cole, she breathed. You shouldn't have dug into Sablepoint, he said coldly. This isn't your world anymore. She peeked around the corner, just in time to see him step from the shadows, older, harder, scar running across his jaw. Looks like it still is. Ava replied. He fired. She rolled, glass raining down around her. One precise countershot grazed his shoulder, sending him staggering back. Outside, sirens wailed backup finally arriving. Cole cursed, retreating into the dark. You can't stop this, Ward. It's bigger than you. Ava shouted after him. Not bigger than the law. But he was gone. Within minutes, FBI agents flooded the scene. 2 intruders arrested. 1 escaped. Ava stood in the yard, hair dusted with glass, adrenaline still humming. Park approached her, shaking his head. You okay? Ava nodded slowly. He's alive, and he's running Sable Point. Park frowned. Cole, that's impossible. Not anymore, she said quietly. He just declared war. As dawn broke over Maple Ridge, the neighbors peeked out again, drawn by the flashing lights and whispers of gunfire. But this time, no one questioned Ava Ward's authority, and the HOA's little empire of control had just been replaced by someone far more capable. The quiet suburb looked like a federal command post. Black SUVs lined the street. Tactical teams swept every corner of Maple Ridge. Drones hovered above the cul-de-sac where Ava Ward's mother lived. Their hum low and constant. To most neighbors, it looked like an overreaction. To Ava, it wasn't enough. She stood at the command table set up in the driveway, scanning live feeds and reports from her team. The air smelled like burnt glass and gunpowder, remnants of last night's chaos. Agent Park approached, tablet in hand. We found something, he said grimly. The intruders weren't just here to scare you. They planted a relay hub in the basement, encrypted uplink to a dark satellite network. Ava's brow furrowed. Surveillance? Worse, Park said. Data siphon. They were piggybacking on your mom's Wi-Fi to mask transmissions from the entire neighborhood. Probably dozens of identities spoofed through here. Ava exhaled slowly. They used her house as cover. Exactly, Park nodded. But here's the part that doesn't fit. They started logging activity months before you even came to visit. That stopped Ava cold. So this wasn't about me. Park hesitated, then flipped his tablet around. We traced one of the signal origins. Look at this. The image showed a federal database seal. DOJ Internal Affairs Secure Node. Ava's stomach dropped. They were spying on the Department of Justice. Looks like it. Your mom's network was used as a blind relay for a data breach. Someone's been pulling case files from high-clearance systems, and Cole's name keeps coming up in the metadata. Ava leaned over the table, staring at the evidence lines of code, data trails leading back to her childhood home. Her voice was steady, but her eyes burned with fury. He's not after me. He's after the Bureau itself. Later that day, she sat across from her mother at the kitchen table, the same place she'd had breakfast as a teenager, now littered with evidence bags and cables. Ellen looked exhausted. I can't believe all this was happening here, she whispered. Why would anyone target me? Ava softened. They didn't, Mum. You were just convenient. Your internet line sits right on a dead zone between 2 encrypted routing towers. They needed somewhere invisible to hide their signal. Ellen shook her head slowly. And you brought them out of hiding. Ava smiled faintly. Guess I still know how to ruin someone's day. Her mother reached across the table, taking her hand. I hate that you're always in danger. You never stop. Ava squeezed her hand gently. That's the job. But this time, it's personal. That night, back at the mobile command post, Ava stood before a wall of digital evidence. Lines of code streamed across multiple monitors, stolen files, surveillance logs, weapon purchase orders, all routed through Sable Point and ultimately linked to one target name, Operation Glassline. She turned to Park. Ever heard of it? He shook his head. Classified, even above my clearance. But there's one decrypted note attached. Says containment protocols. Phase 2. Ava's instincts prickled. Containment of what? Park hesitated. People, maybe, dissidents, or... She cut him off, voice hardening. Cole's building something. He's not just running data leaks, he's setting up infrastructure. This is preparation. For what? Ava looked back at the map, a network spreading across multiple states, all hidden under suburban developments just like Maple Ridge. For a domestic shadow grid, she said finally. Surveillance, manipulation, control right under federal noses. Park's face went pale. He's creating his own intelligence agency. Ava's eyes narrowed. Then it's time to remind him what happens when he plays in mine. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, a storm building over the perfect suburban skyline, and for the first time in years, Ava Ward smiled not out of relief, but anticipation. because this wasn't just about justice anymore, it was war, and she was ready to finish it. The storm hit Maple Ridge just before midnight. Rain pelted the asphalt in sheets, lightning illuminating the rows of quiet homes. But Ava Ward was already gone, moving like a shadow through the darkened streets. Headset tight in place, tactical vest secured, weapons checked. Behind her, Agent Part coordinated the perimeter. Drones overhead feeding live visuals. Every alley, every street corner, every blind spot was mapped. Cole had left no trace behind except the trail Ava had spent weeks tracing. A digital breadcrumb network pointing to an abandoned industrial facility 40 miles north. She slowed at the edge of the compound, rain soaking her hair and camouflage gear. Floodlights swept the perimeter, guards pacing with precision. But Ava didn't panic. She was the storm. Inside, Cole's operations hub was a fortress of blinking monitors, servers, and encrypted radios. Men and women moved like machines, unaware of the hunter already inside. Ava stepped through a side entrance she had scoped earlier, bypassing the electronic locks in seconds. Her earpiece crackled. "You're in," Park whispered. 2 guards at the main server room neutralized. "On it," Ava replied. Her movements were surgical. Each guard was incapacitated silently, none aware of the threat until it was too late. Finally, she reached the central chamber, walls lined with screens displaying intercepted communications, surveillance feeds, and the complete infrastructure of Operation Glassline. And there he was, Cole, standing at the main console, eyes widening as he saw her silhouette. Well, Agent Ward," he sneered. "Did you really think you could just waltz in?" Ava leveled her sidearm. "I don't think I act." Cole pressed a button. Alarms screamed. Metal shutters slammed down. Reinforcements poured in from hidden corridors. Ava's mind raced. Calculations, timings, trajectories, every tactical scenario she'd trained for flashed in seconds. Then she smiled. "You brought them all to me." "Yes," Cole hissed. "You can't stop the network now. I'm untouchable." Ava's finger hovered over the trigger. Untouchable. Not anymore. The firefight erupted. Bullets ricocheted off walls. Monitors shattered. Sparks flew. Ava moved with the precision of a shadow, taking cover, returning fire, disarming, disabling. Her squad, fed through encrypted channels by Park, moved simultaneously to cut off Cole's remaining operatives. Cole ran toward a reinforced door, the server core. He thought he could escape. Ava intercepted, sliding across the floor, knocking him off balance. "Game over," she said coldly. Cole laughed, coughing as he struggled to rise. "You don't get it. Even if I fall, Glassline survives." Ava smirked. "Not if I decide it doesn't." With a swift motion, she tore a panel from the console, severing the main uplink. Monitors went dark. Alarms blew. The shadow network collapsed within seconds. Every operation he'd orchestrated, neutralized. Cole lunged. Ava anticipated it. A single, precise strike disarmed him completely. Kneeling over him, she pressed the muzzle of her sidearm to his chest. "Do you know why you failed?" she asked. Cole's lips twitched. "Because you're lucky." "No," Ava replied. "Because you underestimated someone you thought was a civilian, a mother, a quiet girl in the neighborhood. That's your mistake. I'm all of that, and more." She cuffed him with tactical restraints as her team swept the remaining operators. Backup arrived moments later. FBI and federal agents secured the facility. Cole's network was dismantled entirely. By dawn, Ava stood in the pouring rain outside the industrial facility. Her vest was torn, her hands bruised, but her eyes were sharp. Behind her, agents moved in coordination, the remnants of Operation Glassline being catalogued and secured. Park approached, shaking his head in awe. "You did it." Again, Ava glanced at the horizon, lightning illuminating her determined face. "Not for me," she said quietly. "For everyone who thought I was just a girl in the suburbs. For my mum. For every person this network would have controlled. That's why I fight." The storm broke fully, rain drenching everything, washing the compound clean. But Ava Ward, tactical commander, shadow operative, mother, hero, remained unyielding, untouchable, and victorious. In the quiet that followed, the legend of Ava Ward spread further than any operation or news headline could contain. The woman the HOA guards once harassed, the intruders once hunted, had become a force no enemy would dare underestimate. And as she walked back to her mother's house, soaked but unbowed, she knew this wasn't the end. It was just another beginning.